I'm here today with Professor Elisabeth Rata. She's professor at the School of Critical Studies in Education at the Faculty of Education at the University of Auckland. She's also director of the Knowledge and Education Research Unit. So thank you for taking the time to be here, Professor. We have asked you to join us today because of your expertise in sociology of education, with research interests into the effects of global economic change on ethnicity, socioeconomic class, higher education and curriculum knowledge. I have a series of 5 questions I would like to ask you. And the first one is, what do you see as key trends in higher education in the world today?
I think the key trends are something that most people would talk about as marketisation, as universities becoming direct players in the capitalist economy, but I would prefer to take it to go beneath that and to talk about what is going on with universities, with higher education throughout the world, including New Zealand, as more to do with the reconfiguration of class in the new type of capitalist economy. Mm-hmm. And I think what is being created within universities is a new type of person, a new class, a new professional class, a new managerial class. And this is a class of people who are able to operate internationally very easily. Mm-hmm. They're people who share the same dispositions, the same habitus. It would explain the importance put on international collaborations. I think it's not just, those collaborations are not just about the transfer of knowledge, the sharing of knowledge. I think they are in fact part of creating this international class of people. Mm-hmm. who recognise one another because they all become the same type of people. Mm-hmm. So they meet at conferences. They adopt the same, as I've said, the same dispositions, the same habitus. They have the same language. So that's what I think is actually going on, that this new class of persons will be the international managers for global capitalism in the new era.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Are there similar or different changes present in your own country or even in your region?
Well, given that the same forces, this major force of class reconfiguration is occurring everywhere, New Zealand universities are being shaped by that too. But as with all things, there are always local forces which can contribute to the global forces or react against it. And I think we're starting to see in New Zealand an attempt at bringing back the notion of the university as something that serves the public. I don't know if that will be successful, mm-hmm. given these forces of class reconfiguration are so strong, but there is certainly a movement, the idea that the university is something that belongs to the people and is the place where new knowledge is created, where we can start to see ourselves, we can consider what it means to be human. And that's why the social sciences and humanities and arts are so important, mm-hmm. in the public university, because that type of university is about what it is to be human, how we understand what it is to be human. But I think the class reconfiguration process is actually strengthening in New Zealand, and there's something that's just starting to occur which makes me say this. Up until recently, the emphasis was on all young people being able to go to university. There was a huge push. People, the idea of student loans was part of that, so that more and more people could go to university. But now we're finding, and I've seen ads in the paper just recently, ads saying you don't need to have a degree to have a good career. So we're getting another new type of person. And I think this person is going to be the technician in the new global capitalism. Because universities are so expensive, there are going to be cheaper ways to train those people. And I think we're already starting to see that group of people being discouraged, being discouraged from going to university, and polytechs, local institutes are now becoming the institutions where those people will go. So that class reconfiguration I've talked about, there will be the professionals, the managers, who will operate internationally. Even if they work locally, they will still be the international face of a country. And then there will be the technical people who will assist in the operating of the global economy. So New Zealand is part of that.
Okay, thank you. In our European Commission funded project, Universities of the Knowledge Economy project, we are interested in the ways in which universities actually are being enrolled in producing knowledge and workers for the economy. Is this something that you see happening in the context in which you are working, and what do these changes mean for the idea of the university as we know it?
Well, going back to my argument that the university is now a key player in class reconfiguration, in a way, universities are at a crossroads. They have the choice of becoming a key mechanism in a new type of global economy, which will be characterized by a very small, enormously wealthy elite, and increasing numbers of very poor people. Well, we're seeing that happen already, of course. Or if the university can hold out as almost the symbol of the public. Now, national education systems have been that, and in New Zealand, our public education system goes back to 1877, so it has a very long history. It's accommodated private interests quite skillfully, with a small area of allocated for private schools and for religious-based schools. But a new type of school is coming into the country called charter schools, and I think they represent a new type of, they're not just another special character or private school, they're a new type of way of regulating education, and they will contribute to destroying people's faith and trust in the notion of the public. And I think the role of the university is to make a very strong stand for the idea of the public. And the public is an imaginary, and in a nation is an imaginary. It's how we imagine ourselves, how we see ourselves. The state is the infrastructure of the nation, but the nation itself, the public, the people, that is a symbol of our willingness to be a cohesive society. And the public university is a major part of that symbolic creation, because it's in the university that the raw material of our symbolic consciousness is created. And if the universities stop doing that, if they simply become places, producers of technical knowledge, then they stop being producers of symbolic knowledge. If they stop doing it, who does do it? we go back to a pre-modern period where the churches do it, religions do it, because it was the university, the Enlightenment university, that really replaced the role of the churches in creating our symbolic consciousness, the way we represent ourselves symbolically. So I think the university has to look very closely at itself, and this is why the project that we're involved with, the UNIKE project, is so important, to ask that fundamental question: what is the role of the university in this new era?
Okay, thank you very much. What, in your opinion, is the most positive outcome of the recent changes in higher education?
Well, given what I've said, I probably you would expect me not to see many positive ones, but there is one I thought about, and I thought about the feminization of the knowledge worker. I had a doctoral student, Malika Bandara, from Sri Lanka. She did her PhD here with me, and she looked at the emergence of the knowledge worker from the person who came from developing countries, doing a PhD or other forms of higher education in developed countries, and then going off into other countries to build a career. And what she found was that many of those knowledge workers were women, and they were an interesting group of women. They were women who came from developing countries where traditionally they would be expected to marry, to be part of an extended family. She found that in fact they were single women. In the past, when women from those countries left, they were part of a family. They migrated with husbands and children, and often parents as well. But she found that they were going on their own. They were staying single. They were making the decision not to have children, and they were forming part of this new cosmopolitan class, these knowledge workers. And they were very, very modern women, very cosmopolitan. It was a fascinating thesis that I certainly hope she will publish from.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, indeed. What can you tell us about the place of knowledge in education? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, it's such a good question and such a huge question. And of course, my research unit, Knowledge and Education Research Unit, looks at this, because if you accept my argument that the university has become a managerial structure in the reorganisation of global capitalism, then its role as the producer of knowledge has changed. So I think we need to look at what is knowledge. And this idea, going back to Durkheim, but originally much further back to the Greeks, that of two types of knowledge: epistemic knowledge, the type of knowledge which enables us to imagine the world as we do not know it, to think about what we do not know. That epistemic knowledge is the disciplines. It's the systems of meaning that over time have become bounded or classified as disciplines. And in my book, The Politics of Knowledge and Education, I refer to Joseph Priestley in the 18th century, when he talked about the need for the sciences to be developed from philosophy, because philosophy had become too large, too entangled, and he saw that there were new ideas developing that needed to engage with themselves, with more specific systems of meaning. So that, on one hand, that's one type of knowledge, epistemic or abstract knowledge. And the other type of knowledge is social knowledge or culture or common sense knowledge, the knowledge we have to live with. So my interest is, what is the nature of epistemic knowledge, given that it is the role of the university to create this knowledge? Are we thinking enough about what it is that we are doing? And when it leaves the university and is reproduced in schools, what changes occur to it? With knowledge such as physics and chemistry, what Basil Bernstein calls vertically structured knowledge, those forms of knowledge are relatively straightforward, because the systems of meaning, the web of concepts, is clearly bounded. But when we look at subjects such as particularly history or music, or the social relation in those subjects is as strong as the epistemic structuring principles. So what does that mean for the integrity of the subject? And if we look at history, we can see a subject that is in real danger of losing its episteme completely and becoming simply a story that anyone wants to tell. And you often hear people talk about that now, as though history is now just the social story of a family or a group of people or a community. And yet history as a discipline has a very strong episteme. Sadly, in our school curriculum, that has been forgotten. And so this is the area I'm particularly interested in. And I think it's important for the universities to go back to that question. We are the producers of knowledge, so what is it we're producing?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rata. Thank you for taking time to talk with us. It was a very interesting interview. Thank you.